The morning sun beat down on Fort Harrison's training grounds as Master Sergeant Sarah Chen finished her 100 push-ups. Sweat dripped from her face, but she didn't slow down. At 42 years old, she could still outrun soldiers half her age. Her worn combat boots showed years of service, and her eyes held stories she never told. Sarah wiped her face with her sleeve and headed toward the command building. Today was inspection day. Admiral James "Hammer" Morrison, a decorated Navy SEAL commander, was visiting to evaluate the base's special operations readiness. Sarah had heard plenty about Morrison. The man was a legend, but also known for his sharp tongue and old-school military attitude. As she walked past the main courtyard, Sarah noticed a crowd gathering. Young soldiers whispered and pointed. There stood Admiral Morrison himself, his chest covered with ribbons and medals, surrounded by his staff. His gray hair was cut military short, and his jaw looked like it was carved from stone. Sarah tried to walk around the group, keeping her head down. She had paperwork to file and no time for spectacles, but fate had other plans. "You there, Sergeant?" Morrison's voice boomed across the courtyard. Sarah stopped and turned. The Admiral was looking directly at her. His eyes narrowed as he took in her appearance. Her uniform was regulation but simple. No fancy badges except for the basics required. She looked plain compared to the decorated officers around him. "Yes, sir," Sarah responded, standing at attention. Morrison walked closer, his polished shoes clicking on the concrete. His staff followed like a pack of wolves. Several younger soldiers gathered to watch. Sarah could feel their eyes on her. "You look a bit old to be running around these training grounds," Morrison said with a smirk. "Shouldn't you be behind a desk somewhere, maybe teaching typing classes?" A few of his staff members chuckled. Sarah's jaw tightened, but she kept her face neutral. She had dealt with men like this before. "I maintain my physical standards, sir," she replied simply. Morrison circled her like a shark. "Physical standards? At your age? What are you, 45, 50? Most women your age are planning retirement parties, not playing soldier." The crowd grew larger. Some of the younger female soldiers looked uncomfortable. Sarah could see anger in their eyes, but no one dared speak up against an admiral. "I serve where I'm needed, sir," Sarah said, her voice steady as steel. Morrison laughed, a harsh sound that echoed across the courtyard. "Where you're needed, and where exactly is that? The supply room? The mess hall?" He turned to his staff. "This is exactly what I mean about standards slipping. We've got grandmother types thinking they're warriors." Sarah's hands formed fists at her sides, but she kept them there. Inside, a fire burned, but she had learned long ago that the best revenge was patience. "Tell me, Sergeant," Morrison continued, clearly enjoying himself. "What's your MOS, your specialty? Let me guess, human resources, administrative assistant." "Special operations, sir," Sarah answered. This brought the biggest laugh yet from Morrison. "Special operations? You, what kind of special operations? Making special coffee for the real operators?" His staff was eating it up, laughing and nodding. But Sarah noticed some of the seasoned soldiers in the crowd weren't laughing. They were watching her carefully, as if they recognized something others didn't. "You know what?" Morrison said, wiping tears of laughter from his eyes. "This is rich. A middle-aged woman claiming special operations. What's next? Tell me, what's your rank in this fantasy special operations world? Are you some kind of secret ninja master?" Sarah looked him straight in the eye. For the first time, she allowed a small smile to cross her face. "You asked about my rank, Admiral." "Yes, please, enlighten us all. What rank does a grandmother hold in special operations?" Sarah stood straighter. The courtyard went quiet. Even the wind seemed to stop. "Titan Wolf, sir." The words hung in the air like a thunderclap. Morrison's smile froze on his face. His skin went pale, then white. His mouth opened, but no words came out. Behind him, his executive officer dropped his clipboard. It clattered on the concrete, but no one moved to pick it up. The executive officer whispered urgently in Morrison's ear, but the Admiral wasn't listening. His eyes were locked on Sarah's. That's impossible," Morrison finally managed to say, his voice cracked like a teenager's. "Titan Wolf was, they're all." "All what, sir?" Sarah asked calmly. "Dead, retired, gone." Morrison took a step back. His confident stance crumbled. The crowd sensed the shift but didn't understand what was happening. The term Titan Wolf meant nothing to most of them, but to Morrison, who had spent 30 years in naval special warfare, it meant everything. "Verify that?" Morrison barked at his aide, but his voice had lost its power. The aide fumbled with his secure phone, his hands shaking. Sarah stood perfectly still, watching the Admiral's world flip upside down. She had kept her secret for 3 years, living as a simple master sergeant, hiding in plain sight. But this man, this arrogant fool, had pushed the wrong button. "Sir," the aide whispered urgently, "I can't access that level of classification from here. It requires POTUS-level clearance." Morrison's legs looked unsteady. "You're telling me she's one of the 12. 3 years earlier, Sarah had been someone else entirely. Not a master sergeant filing paperwork at Fort Harrison, but something far more dangerous. Something the military pretended didn't exist. The Titan Wolf program was born in the deepest black sites of American intelligence. Only 12 operators in the entire military had ever earned the designation. They were ghosts, shadows who did the jobs that couldn't exist on any official record. When the president needed the impossible done, when even the SEALs and Delta Force couldn't go, the Titan Wolves went. Sarah had been the only woman to ever make it through the selection. 8 months of hell that made Navy SEAL training look like summer camp. Of the 300 who started, only one survived to join the 12. Her. She remembered the first time she put on the Titan Wolf insignia, a badge that officially didn't exist. Her handler, a CIA deputy director, had warned her, "From this moment on, Sarah Chen dies, you become whatever we need you to become." For 15 years, she had been exactly that. A ghost who spoke 17 languages. A warrior who could kill with her bare hands in 40 different ways. A spy who had infiltrated terrorist cells in Pakistan, stopped nuclear smuggling in Eastern Europe, and saved the president's daughter from kidnappers who never made the news. But ghosts can't last forever. The mission in Syria changed everything. Sarah's team of 4 Titan Wolves had gone in to extract a captured CIA analyst. The intelligence was wrong. It was an ambush designed specifically for them. Someone had betrayed the Titan Wolf program from the inside. In that dusty basement in Aleppo, Sarah watched 3 of her brothers die. Marcus, who had 2 kids in Texas. James, who was getting married in a month. And David, just 25, the youngest Titan Wolf ever selected. Sarah escaped with the analyst, but not before taking 17 bullets from an enemy machine gun. The doctors said she should have died 6 times over. But Titan Wolves were built different. They were selected not just for their skills, but for something deeper. A refusal to quit that went beyond human limits. During her recovery, Sarah discovered the truth. The betrayal came from inside the Pentagon. A group of corrupt officials had sold out the Titan Wolf program for money. They wanted the program destroyed because the Titan Wolves had gotten too close to exposing their illegal arms dealing. Sarah presented her evidence to the president himself in a secret meeting at Camp David. Within 48 hours, 3 generals and 2 senators were quietly arrested. The scandal never made the news. It never would. But the damage was done. The Titan Wolf program was disbanded. The surviving 8 operators were given new identities and told to disappear. Most took civilian jobs, trying to forget. But Sarah couldn't forget. She requested a position at Fort Harrison under a simple cover identity. She wanted to stay close to the military to keep watch. Admiral Morrison didn't know any of this as he stood in that courtyard, his face still pale. But he knew enough. He knew that Titan Wolves were myths, legends whispered about in the highest circles of special operations. He knew they answered only to the president. And he knew that if Sarah Chen was really a Titan Wolf, he had just made the biggest mistake of his career. "Ma'am," Morrison's aide interrupted, his secure phone buzzing urgently. "I have General Patterson from the Pentagon. He says to tell you, and I quote, 'Do not engage with that individual.' Repeat, do not engage. Presidential Directive Alpha 7 in effect." The crowd in the courtyard had grown silent. They could sense something massive was happening, even if they didn't understand what. The young soldiers who had laughed at Morrison's jokes now looked confused. The veteran soldiers looked afraid. Sarah hadn't moved. She stood at perfect attention, her eyes locked on Morrison. "Admiral, you asked about my rank. I've answered. Do you require anything else?" Morrison's throat worked, but words seemed stuck. His entire career had been built on being the toughest man in any room. He had led SEAL teams through hell. He had over 200 confirmed kills. But standing before this middle-aged woman in a simple uniform, he looked like a scared recruit. I need to verify." Morrison started, but his aide grabbed his arm. "Sir, General Patterson is insisting we leave." Now, he says this is a matter of national security. Sarah finally moved, taking one step forward. Morrison actually stepped back. Admiral, before you go, let me share something. You asked if I should be planning retirement parties. You're right. I should be home with a family I never got to have. I should be sleeping through the night without nightmares of friends dying in my arms. Her voice never rose, but everyone in the courtyard could hear her perfectly. I should be doing a lot of things, but instead I'm here. Do you know why? Morrison shook his head, unable to speak. Because real warriors don't retire, Admiral. They just find different ways to serve. And sometimes that means filing paperwork at a base like this, watching over young soldiers, making sure they're ready for what's coming, making sure they don't have to become what I became. She paused, letting her words sink in. You asked if I was playing soldier. Admiral, I stopped playing anything the day I held my dying teammates in Syria. The day I carried state secrets in my head while being tortured for 72 hours. The day I chose to become something beyond human to serve this country. The rest of that day passed in a blur. Admiral Morrison left Fort Harrison within an hour, his inspection incomplete. Word spread quickly through the base that something extraordinary had happened, though no one knew exactly what. Sarah returned to her small office and continued her paperwork as if nothing had occurred. But by evening, everything changed. Sarah was in the base gym, alone, working through her evening routine when the lights suddenly went out. Emergency lighting kicked in, bathing everything in red. The base alarm began wailing. Her secure phone, the one she hadn't used in 3 years, buzzed. Only 5 people in the world had that number. Wolf 6, this is Control, the voice said. Sarah recognized it immediately. General Patricia Hayes, the only person besides the president who knew where all the former Titan wolves were hidden. I'm here, Sarah replied, already moving toward her locker. We have a situation. Homeland has detected an imminent attack on Fort Harrison. 3 cells, 40+ hostiles, heavy weapons. They're already inside the perimeter. Sarah's blood went cold. Fort Harrison housed 800 soldiers, mostly support staff and trainees. They weren't equipped for this kind of assault. ETA on backup? Sarah asked, though she already knew the answer. 30 minutes minimum. Sarah, there's a special operations training class in Building 7, 60 recruits. The hostiles are heading there first. Sarah didn't need to hear more. She sprinted from the gym, her mind already calculating distances, angles, probabilities. Building 7 was 400 meters away. The recruits there were good kids, but they were still in training. They had no live ammunition, no real combat experience. As she ran, explosions rocked the base. Automatic gunfire erupted from multiple directions. The attack was coordinated, professional. This wasn't some random terrorist group. Sarah reached her office and pulled open a hidden panel behind her filing cabinet. Inside was a black case she had hoped never to open again. Her Titan Wolf gear, custom body armor that could stop armor-piercing rounds, a modified rifle with smart targeting, and her blade, a carbon fiber knife that had saved her life more times than she could count. She suited up in under 60 seconds. The armor still fit perfectly. As she loaded her weapons, her hands moved with muscle memory, 15 years of training taking over. Moving through the base, Sarah became what she once was, not a middle-aged master sergeant, but a predator. She encountered the first hostile team near the motor pool, 4 men with AK-47s moving toward the barracks. They never saw her coming. Sarah dropped them in complete silence, her suppressed rifle coughing 4 times. She checked their equipment quickly. Russian weapons, but the men were American, mercenaries. Someone had hired professionals to hit Fort Harrison. She moved on, a shadow in the emergency lighting. 2 more teams fell before they knew she was there. But she could hear heavy gunfire from Building 7. She was running out of time. The scene at Building 7 was chaos. The 60 recruits were barricaded inside, using desks and training equipment as cover. The attackers had them surrounded, pouring fire into the building. Sarah counted at least 20 hostiles, well-positioned, with overlapping fields of fire. Among the recruits inside was Private Jessica Martinez, the young woman who had watched Morrison humiliate Sarah that morning. Jessica was trying to keep the others calm, but Sarah could see the fear in her eyes through the broken windows. Normal tactics wouldn't work here. Even a Titan Wolf couldn't take 20 alert hostiles in open combat, but Sarah hadn't survived 15 years by fighting fair. She pulled out her secure phone and typed a quick message to General Hayes. Need base override protocol 7. Within seconds, her phone buzzed back. Authorized. Sarah smiled grimly. Protocol 7 gave her complete control of the base's training systems. Systems that included the automated target drones used for live-fire exercises. Drones equipped with paint rounds for training. But Sarah knew how to modify them. She sprinted to the training control room 50 meters away. 2 hostiles guarded it. Sarah went through them like wind through leaves. Inside, she accessed the drone controls and began rapid modifications. In 90 seconds, she had 12 drones armed with live ammunition from the training supplies. The drones launched from their housing units, small and fast, designed to mimic enemy combatants in training. But now they were her weapons. Sarah controlled them from her phone, sending them in a coordinated attack pattern. The hostiles around Building 7 suddenly faced fire from 12 directions at once. They scattered, confused, trying to target the fast-moving drones. In that chaos, Sarah struck. She moved like lightning, taking down hostiles while they were distracted. Her rifle barked and men fell. When she ran out of ammunition, she used her knife. When surrounded, she used their own grenades against them. Private Martinez watched through a broken window as a single figure in black armor destroyed 20 armed men in less than 3 minutes. It was like watching a force of nature, something beyond human capability. But Sarah had missed one, a sniper on the roof of the adjacent building, well hidden. As Sarah checked the last fallen hostile, the sniper lined up his shot. Martinez saw the laser dot appear on Sarah's back. Without thinking, the young private grabbed a training rifle, loaded with nothing but blanks, and fired at the sniper's position. The blanks did no damage, but the muzzle flash and sound startled the sniper. His shot went wide. Sarah spun, spotted the sniper, and put 3 rounds through his scope before he could fire again. The immediate threat was over, but Sarah could hear more gunfire across the base. She turned to Building 7. The recruits were starting to emerge, led by Martinez. "Stay inside," Sarah commanded. "This isn't over." But Martinez ran to her anyway. How did you? Who are you?" Sarah pulled off her tactical helmet, revealing her face. Martinez gasped. It was the same woman Admiral Morrison had mocked that morning, but her eyes were different now. They burned with an intensity that Martinez had only seen in combat veterans' 1,000-yard stares, but multiplied tenfold. "I'm someone who used to do this for a living," Sarah said simply. "Now get your people to the underground bunker. Move." The attack on Fort Harrison lasted another 17 minutes. Sarah eliminated 2 more hostile teams before backup arrived. When the dust settled, 43 attackers were dead. The base had suffered 7 casualties, all minor injuries. Without Sarah's intervention, military analysts later estimated the death toll would have been in the hundreds. By dawn, Fort Harrison was swarming with federal agents, military police, and investigators. Sarah sat in the base commander's office, still in her blood-stained tactical gear, giving her report to General Hayes via secure video link. "The investigation is already yielding results," Hayes said. "The mercenaries were hired through a shell company. We're tracking the money now, but Sarah, this wasn't random. Someone knew you were there." Sarah nodded. She had suspected as much. Morrison's visit wasn't a coincidence. "No, we think someone wanted to draw you out, force you to reveal yourself. The question is why." Before Sarah could answer, the door burst open. Admiral Morrison entered, followed by 2 other admirals and a general. Morrison looked different than he had the day before. Older, humbled. "General Hayes," Morrison addressed the screen. "I need to speak with Wolf 6. Hayes looked at Sarah, who nodded. The general signed off, leaving Sarah alone with the senior officers. Morrison stood at attention. The other officers looked confused. Admirals didn't stand at attention for master sergeants. But Morrison knew better now. "Ma'am," Morrison began, his voice formal. "I've been briefed, not fully, that's above my clearance, but enough." He swallowed hard. "I came to apologize and to inform you that I've submitted my resignation." Sarah stood up, surprised. "Your resignation, why?" "Because I failed in my duty. My job was to inspect this base's readiness. I was so busy playing politics, making jokes, that I missed the signs of an impending attack. Signs that you clearly saw and prepared for." He continued, his voice thick with emotion. "But more than that, Yesterday morning, I disrespected not just a fellow service member, but someone who has sacrificed more for this country than I could ever imagine. I mocked a hero while playing at being important. Sarah was quiet for a long moment. Then she spoke. Admiral, do you know why I didn't identify myself when you first confronted me? Morrison shook his head. Because for 3 years I've been trying to be normal, to be just another soldier, to forget the things I've done, the friends I've lost. She walked to the window, looking out at the base where young soldiers were already training again, resilient as always. But yesterday you reminded me of something important. There are still people like you in positions of power. Good people maybe, but blind to their own biases, who judge based on appearance, age, gender, rather than capability. She turned back to face him. Don't resign, Admiral. Instead, learn. Use this experience. How many other Sarah Chens are out there? How many capable people are you overlooking because they don't fit your image of a warrior? Morrison's eyes glistened. I will, I promise. There's something else, Sarah continued. The attack last night wasn't random. Someone is still hunting Titan wolves. 3 of my former teammates have gone dark in the last month. I think someone is trying to eliminate us all. The general who had come with Morrison stepped forward. What do you need? Sarah almost smiled. Yesterday, these men would have dismissed her. Now they were ready to follow her lead. I need to disappear again, but this time I'm going hunting. Whoever is behind this made a mistake. They revealed themselves. She pulled up data on her secure phone. The mercenaries' equipment included components that were only sold to 3 buyers in the last year. One of those buyers is a shadow company linked to Senator Clayton's office. The officers exchanged shocked looks. Senator Clayton was the chairman of the Armed Services Committee. You're talking about investigating a senator, Morrison said carefully. No, Sarah replied. I'm talking about protecting the remaining Titan wolves. What happens along the way is just coincidence. 2 weeks later, Senator Clayton was arrested by federal agents on charges of treason, conspiracy, and murder. Documents found in his office revealed a decade-long scheme to sell military secrets to foreign powers. The Titan Wolf program had discovered his operation years ago, which is why he had orchestrated their betrayal in Syria. The surviving Titan wolves were quietly relocated and given new protections. The program itself remained classified, but new safeguards were put in place. Sarah Chen disappeared again, this time for good. But before she left, she had one last meeting with Private Martinez, who had been promoted to corporal for her actions during the attack. You saved my life, Sarah told the young woman. That sniper would have killed me. Martinez shook her head. You saved all our lives, I wanted to help. Sarah handed her a card with nothing but a phone number. If you ever need anything, and I mean anything, call this number. Will I see you again? Martinez asked. Sarah smiled, the first genuine smile anyone at Fort Harrison had seen from her. Probably not, but I'll be watching, making sure the next generation is ready, making sure you don't have to become what I became. As she walked away, Martinez called out, What should I tell people about you? Sarah paused at the door. Tell them nothing. Heroes don't need recognition, Corporal. They just need to know they made a difference. 6 months later, Admiral Morrison stood before Congress, testifying about the need for reform in military culture. He spoke passionately about bias, about overlooking capability in favor of appearance, about the heroes who walk among us unrecognized. He never mentioned Sarah Chen or Titan Wolf, but everyone who had been in that courtyard knew who had changed his perspective. The story spread in whispers through military bases across the country. A legend of a middle-aged woman who had brought an admiral to his knees with just 2 words. Somewhere in America, Sarah Chen lived under another name in another quiet town. She ran every morning, did her 100 push-ups, and watched the news for signs of trouble. The Titan Wolf was dormant but never gone, waiting, watching, ready to protect a nation that would never know her name. But for those 60 recruits in Building 7, for Admiral Morrison, for everyone who witnessed her truth that day, she would never be forgotten. She had taught them the most important lesson of all. Real strength doesn't announce itself. It simply stands ready when needed. And sometimes, the most dangerous warrior in the room is the quiet one that everyone underestimates. The one they never see coming until it's too late.